Hi there, and thanks for joining me for today's useful scraps project. Today we are going to be making this Christmas tree ornament. I will get into all of the different parts of it in just a minute, but let's first talk about what we're going to need for today. You're just going to need some small scraps. Anything this size is going to work well for this. I have ivory and I've got a dark olive today. This is a worsted weight number 4 acrylic yarn. So I just grabbed some balls out of my stash. You're going to need a little bit of fiberfill fluff today so that we can make it into kind of a pillow. I am going to be using a number 7 4.5 millimeter hook. I do have a large eye needle for tucking in my ends. I'm also going to be grabbing a sewing needle in just a minute because I am going to need to have that so that I can sew my button on. I am using quilting thread today. You don't have to have anything that sturdy. This is just a little ornament. This just happens to be what I grabbed. Make sure that you've got sewing thread. You're going to need a 7/16 inch button. So that's just less than 1/2 inch. So 7/16. I measured it on my tape measure. And you'll need a scissors so that you can cut your yarn, of course. So let's go ahead and get started. Now the construction of today's crochet project is going to be very, very simple. We're going to be making a front piece and we're going to be making a back piece. When we put the pieces together, we are going to crochet around the edges, including our strap in here so that we don't have to add anything later. And then the last thing that we're going to do before we finish off completely is add this decorative border, which is just a slip stitch or a top stitch on your crochet. All right. The very first thing that we're going to do is chain 12. Then I'm going to need you to single crochet in the second loop from the hook and each of the loops across, creating 11 single crochets on this particular row. Now I single crochet into the back humps of my starting chain. It's a personal preference. I like the fact that when I do that, it gives me kind of a finished bottom. And the top and the bottom of the single crochets look the same. At the end of each row, we are going to be chaining one and turning. So in this first row, we are going to single into 5 with this color. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now don't finish off that single crochet because right now we are going to switch our colors and I'm going to join the green in with this. Now I am going to carry this white along as I go. This only requires 1 single crochet right now. So we're just going to pull up the same 2 loops that we just finished with the white. And I'm going to finish that off by pulling the white through. And now I'm not going to carry this yarn because I don't want it to show up in my white. So I'm going to just move it to the front because when I chain 1 and turn in a minute, it's going to need to be on this side of the work. So go ahead and continue. And finish up the last 5. We're going to do that exact same row one more time. So chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do that same color change. So just pull up and then bring that green in. Continue holding that white and then change that over one more time. I'm going to carry this one along for a little bit. And the reason being is because when I turn and come back, we're going to start working our tree pattern, which is over here. So I want to carry this green along for just a few stitches. 2, 3, and then I'm going to just let it go. And then I'm going to finish up the remainder. Now, we're chaining 1 and turning. And we're going to single into 1. So we're changing our color right away. I'm going to bring that up in there. All right, now see how we can actually see that green in there. And that's why I didn't want to carry it along originally. But I'm going to show you how to cover that up. And we single into this one. Now, when we're going into this next one, I'm going to go below that green. It's still in between the stitches like normal, but I'm going to get that green caught up in the green stitches I'm working on. So it actually covers up that green color. And then the same thing for this white that's crossing over the green. I'm going to make sure that that is covered up by the green that I'm using. And we are going to change over here. I'm going to pull that around to the front and single. And chain one and turn. All right, so your front and your back looks pretty much the same. We are going to use this as the back of our work, and we're going to call this the front of our work. If you have a stitch marker available, you don't have to use it. If you want to just use this little tail as a reminder, or you can use a stitch marker that just goes on the front of your work like that, so that you have a visual reminder of what is the front side of your work. Let's go ahead and chain one and turn and do this again. So we're going to be building our Christmas tree now, and we're going to be decreasing the amount of green stitches that we have going across. So let's single into two. Now, because we are going to be going over that, I'm going to hold this yarn and kind of catch it up in here as an easy way of moving the yarn along without leaving a big piece. This I'm going to hold to the back side of my work as I go across, so I have less work when I flip it over. All right, so we're going to single into 7 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to switch those colors over again and finish off with our white. Chain one and turn. My yarn is kind of getting tangled around each other. It's one of the reasons why I keep my intarsia projects fairly small, because I don't like the mess. All right, so let's go ahead and single into 1, 2, and 3 this time, because remember, we're making our Christmas tree smaller and smaller as we go up. Switching our colors over, carrying the white along. Single into 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Switch your color over, pull your yarn around, and finish off that row. Chain one and turn. All right, and this time we are going to single into 4. 1, 2, 3, and remember to catch your yarn up in there. 4, and switch it over, pulling your yarn to the back side just to keep it from showing up. 1, 2, and 3 in the green. Switch it back, move your yarn, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain one, turn, and let's do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, we're just doing 1 in the middle, and then finishing up this row. We're going to do the exact same thing when we chain 1 and turn. We're going to single into 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Carry your yarn along the back. Change over. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, before I move on, I'm going to cut this green and chain 1 and turn. Now you can decide actually which side of this is your favorite as far as the front and the back. If you want this to be your front, all you'll have to do is just pull those yarn pieces to the other side. I'm going to use this as my front. All right, so we just have 2 more rows to go. Rows 10 and 11 are going to be just regular old single crochet, no color changing, and 1 more row. Go ahead and cut your yarn. Now what we're going to do is make a single crochet piece that's going to be 11 rows with the same amount of stitches going across, 11 stitches across, 11 rows high in just the white, like so. And then we're going to attach those together. So you can set this aside for now. All right, my plain background has been created. 11 stitches across, 11 rows up. I'm going to leave this one attached real quick because we're going to do some small embellishments. We're going to outline the tree with some top stitching, and we're going to put our button on before we put these 2 pieces together, because once they're together, it's just harder to get in there. All right, so we're not going to go all the way around the tree. We're just going to do some quick top stitching to just kind of cover up these little white spots here. Now, obviously, as you can see by looking at this one, we don't cover them completely. I'm just not that obsessed with having to have them perfect. You are welcome to make this as stylized as you wish. Now, I'm going to put my hook in from the front to the back, and I'm going to grab my green and pull it up to the front. We're going to keep our working yarn to the back, and we're going to be working from the front though. So from here, I'm going to go into each of these stitches going up, and I'm just basically slip stitching across the front of my work, like so. All that does is just kind of pretty up the edge. Now I do want to go to the top of my tree, so I'm going to go straight up and go to the tippity top. And then I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to go back down and work the other side. This is a very simple way to put embellishments on the front part of your work, cover up ugly seams, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is supposed to be a rustic type of ornament, so we're just going to leave that there. I'm going to cut that off, pull that through, but then what I'm going to do is go through with my hook and grab that yarn and pull it through to the back side. Because the beauty of this project, oh wow, that came out better than I thought. The beauty of this project is that we don't have to do a lot of tucking in of ends. We really don't have to do anything other than I'm just going to actually tie these 2 long ones together. Just more to get them out of my way than anything else. Because then I'm just going to snip them like so. These guys, I'm not going to worry about them because this is an ornament. This isn't getting played with. This isn't going to be messed with. So we don't have to be super technical about pulling all of our ends in and making sure that they're pretty. All right, so at this point, I'm going to attach my button to the top of my tree. So I'm going to admit I don't really know where most of my sewing needles are. So I am still using kind of a large eye needle. However, what I did is I just made sure that this was going to actually be able to go through the holes. And since I'm only pulling some thread through, there's nothing to hang it up. All right, we're going to attach this button to the front. I'm going to poke up through the back. and then go through my hole. And then I'm going to do the same thing going this way. The reason I haven't pulled this up and snugged it real super tight yet is because I just want to show you what I do to kind of make life easy for myself so I don't have to worry about this not somehow poking back through. I will split the yarn, the little, can you see that? Do I have it in the right spot? I'll split the yarn and put my needle through that. So what that does is it kind of like grabs it and snugs it in there without me having to try. And then just finish up. I'll just go through this a couple times. And one more time. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off if I can find the hole. All right, another one of my tips and tricks, way of tying this off in the back is I will weave it into the back of my work, kind of like yarn, and just keep tying it off and going through the loop and creating a knot. At some point though, now that I feel like I've got enough of a knot there, I'm just a little bit nervous, and I'll just make one more knot. Tie that off, get rid of those things, and we've got our Christmas tree. Woo! All right, so now I'm going to put my front and back together. Here's what I like to do. Do you see how this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11? So the 11th one is still, it just is all puffy on this side. If you notice on this side, you can see that one of the rows is a little bit different. You can see that on this one as well. I'm going to flip this over so that both of these match up going the same direction. The reason why I do this is because then when I'm working the ends are identical and super easy to work with. All right, now get your hook in there and then turn it so that it's facing you. I have my hook on the wrong side. Now we're going to work right into those stitches going through both thicknesses. All this stuff is going to be hidden. We don't have to worry about tucking any of that in. And so we're going to single crochet, going through both thicknesses and matching up as we go along. So across the top, you'll have 11 stitches. Across the bottom, you'll have 11 stitches. And across each of the sides, because they're the identical length and width, you'll also have 11 stitches. But when you get to these end ones, we're going to create corners out of those by doing multiple stitches in the same spot. So I'm going to go back into that corner spot and do 2 more stitches, because what that's going to do is it's going to basically turn my work so I can now work along the sides. And we're going to go into each row end. I am not going to go into this first row end because turning the corner basically did that. So I'm going to go one down and I'm going to go through both thicknesses again. See how all of that matches up. So it's easy to find which is the matching row end. Going through both thicknesses, we're just going to put 1 single crochet in each row end. And we're going to do that right up to the end. But in this end one, we're again going to be turning the corner. So we're going to kind of be working in both this row end and this first stitch. So go ahead and put another stitch into that row end, but then turn your work so that you're working into the beginning chain from before. And this is why I like to work into the back loops, is because it looks just like a single crochet. So now I'm matching up my single crochets again and go into that first one from the row and then continue And that'll be the third stitch for our corner. And then continue working through both thicknesses. To the next corner. All right, I'm in the next corner. So we're going to go into that last stitch. We're going to push these guys to the inside and not worry about them anymore. And then we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did over here where we just did 3 stitches into that stitch. So do it 2 more times, 1 and 2, which is also going to count for our first row. So go down 1 more and go into the next row end. And once again, we are matching up our row ends and going through both thicknesses. Now, before you completely close this off, we're going to quick stuff this in here. We're getting rid of all these ends, and we're going to fill it up with our fluff. If you are an overstuffer, which I tend to be because I like to have things all, you know, super fat and fluffy, you can put as much or as little stuffing in your ornament as you'd like. I just like to have my corners. So here's a little trick. Use your hook to pull things to the corner. You might be grabbing some of your strings inside, so just be a little careful. But that'll help fluff out your corners. And I'm sure you'll want to do some adjustments after you get this completely done and closed up too. I'm going to just stuff the rest of this in here. Okay, and then we're just going to finish putting this together. Don't forget we have to put a loop on here so that we can hang this on our tree. So we're going to do that in the next little bit here. Just want to finish this up. All right, so I've reached the end of the side. So I'm going to put 2 single crochets into that last row end because we only put 1 single crochet into that first one when we first started, and I'm going to slip stitch to join it together. Now we're going to put our little loop on here. So we're going to chain 20, 1, alrighty, and then go ahead and find the center of the 3 that you did on this side, and that's what we're going to join it with, and slip stitch to join. Cut and leave a long enough end so that you can actually sew this end in, but this is where I go in and I just kind of pull things out because it's all mangled. And you shape it how you want it, like so. All right, we are going to be doing one more decorative piece. I'm going to just tuck this in. All right, we are going to be doing one more thing of top stitching like we did with the green around the tree. I'm going to start down here in the bottom corner. Now you're going through both thicknesses again, but you're going to want to watch what you're doing because this is going to want to get hung up. And I just say that because I had trouble the first time that I was doing this. So just watch where you're putting it through so that it doesn't try to grab something it shouldn't have. And all you're doing is putting a slip stitch border going through the bottoms of the side stitches, basically. And I'll show you how to work the corner real quick. You just get up in the corner and then go right ahead and start going to the other side. It's super simple. Alrighty, go ahead and finish this up. Okay, I finished up going all the way around, slip stitch to that last hole. Now I've got 2 ends over here. I am going to tie them Now I'm sure that you could do something really cute and make a bow with these if you left the pieces long enough. I just didn't think that far ahead. And then I'm going to use my crochet hook to hide these inside as well. They keep wanting to fall off. There we go. And there you have your new Christmas tree ornament. You can use these for gift tags. You can use them for presents for bosses. You can use them as happy little random acts of kindness that you can leave around the neighborhood. All right, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you at the next tutorial.